So we did that, and we got a lot of, we did it the first time. And of course, like any change management thing, there was early adopters, people who are super keen to be measured and to have certificates and to be recognized and all of that kind of stuff. And that happened. Then, of course, there was the next wave of people who thought, yeah, this PTGA thing's going to fall over in a year or two. It's not worth doing. And then they realized it wasn't. And then they wanted in. So we did it again. And we got a group of people. Anyway, so here you folks are. And we're doing this now. We offered this to Rob and Tim to do this. Now, these days, and the better option for new guides, keep in mind that the PTGA was not set up for experienced guides right off the bat. Largely, a minimum competency testing scheme is set up for new guides so they know what they're coming into. They arrive in an industry, a new career choice, whatever it is that they're doing, and they want to come in and they don't know what it is that they need to do or what standards they need to operate at to be considered a minimally competent guide. And so this program is not really built for you folk, most of you folk. But because we are a standards system and standards program, and it's likely that this industry is going to see more need to be recognized, then we hope that you are all operating well above the levels that we have. And I want you to understand that we're not here questioning your levels of skills and experience. I'll keep using this phrase, minimally competent. You need to be more than minimally competent generally to be employed by EYOS. So that's a starting point, but we need to measure you. These days, guides coming into the program, new guides starting with companies or whatever, have to get assessed. So the difference between our program compared to doing a course, you can go and do an STCW course, or you can go on an Avalanche course. You just have to turn up. Whether you have enough coffee or whether your brain is attached or not, it doesn't matter. You have attended the course and you walk away with an attendance certificate. People might hope that you've learned something, they may not. A skills competency assessment means that you've been examined. So these days, if Ian were to turn up as a new guide working for Antarctica 21 and he joined this program, Ian would be given, told all about the PTGA, be given some syllabus and said, okay, we need to, first of all, if you don't have skills in any of these areas, you need to train first and gain those skills from an experienced guide and be taught how to do it. You need some experience using those skills because it's not just a one and done thing. And then you will be examined. And an assessor who's qualified from PTGA will observe Ian going about driving his Zodiac as measured against our syllabus. And then if Ian achieves all of the performance criteria for that, then Ian will achieve our certificate. So Ian actually has to perform, has to ask questions and deliver all of the things across the syllabus. I think probably the only person here who knows this is Jessie, because she has done these assessments and been through this process before. So that's what happens, and that's what we built this for. Because when we built PTGA back in 2016, then we did it for the growth of the industry and the confusion and the fact that there's loads of new guides coming in who have no idea about what they need to do or a level of performance. And IATO couldn't do that because IATO is a trade association and can't stamp standards on an industry because of its antitrust laws. And so that's where it all ran. That's why this all came about. Anyway, so back to grandparenting. So that left us with trying to get senior guides on with a paper audit. Now, a paper audit is a weakness for us because we don't actually know. If I have to account for Jessie, I'll use you in this case, Jessie, if that's okay. If I have to account for Jessie, I know that a PTGA assessor has eyes on seeing Jessie perform to the level of our syllabus. I know Magnus. I've spent time in the field with Magnus. Magnus may get a paper audit, but if we have to account for Magnus, then we have no idea that Magnus actually performs to the level of our syllabus, even though they're pretty easy or not. So paper audits are a risk for us, which is why we don't leave this open all the time, because we always wanted to get out of it. Otherwise, there's just that constant weakness. And we're seeing it now. Here's the classic example I get: an email from someone who works in a company with other people, who emails and said, oh, I just met person X. I'll just call him Dave, because Dave's a good name. I just met Dave. Dave's a senior polar guide for PTGA, and he is a crap presenter. But Dave has PTGA Presentation Skills Award because Dave did it from a paper audit. So we never got to see Dave doing presentations. We took it on Dave's word that Dave would work to the minimum level of competency. But you know, people can lie and they'll stretch the truth, and that's the weakness of the paper audit. So there is my introduction. As I said, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything for you folk. Paper audits are a weakness for us. We prefer you to tell us the truth, and we need you to read the material. That's where most of the work is in this process, and understand what it is that you need to do, because some of you will be, all of you, I'll say, are vastly experienced field operators, but there will be things in our syllabus, if you read them, that you go, huh, I've never done that, or I don't do it like that. We don't care if you are going to carry our awards. We need to know, and you need to know, that that's the expectation in that award. You know, for instance, people will get to it when I show you what a syllabus looks like. Interpretation skills catches a lot of people by surprise. If you don't know, if you don't know what the TOR principles or thematic interpretation is, for as good as you all are as experienced polar guides, then you need to flick onto a website and understand, because we need to know that you could operate and can operate with using thematic interpretation, because that's our expectation of guides now and into the future of how they deliver interpretation to their guests. If you're whether you're working one-to-one as a Svalbard skidoo guide, or whether you're on a big ship and you're out there looking at albatrosses in the Southern Ocean, you don't have to do it all of the time, of course, but we expect that you understand a contemporary level of interpretation. So let's take a look. I just want to show you, I'll share my screen here. Ian, I can see you. Could you just give me a thumbs up that you can see that? Okay. Yep. Okay. So here is one of our qualifications, thematic interpretation. In every one, they all look the same at the start. They explain who's it for, what's in it, and the range statements. And these are the small bits that get tested. So in every one of these, and this is the bits that you need to look through, so that you at least have some understanding of what it is that we expect. So in this one here, when we deliver, so the stuff that Jessie has been through, she would have had someone. I don't think Jessie has this one yet, but if we were to do this, someone would be out in the field with Jessie observing her thematic interpretation session, and all of these things that are written here will be examined by an assessor. Key stuff here demonstrates thematic interpretation or the TOR model. So how you use that is examined by someone. Demonstrates the ability to tailor information to the specific audience. Utilizes stories and anecdotes. Demonstrates interactive questioning to increase engagement. Demonstrates body language congruent with delivery. So you can see there's if you've never looked into these things, you think, oh my God, there's a lot of stuff. We expect that you guys, you folk, do all of this naturally and professionally as highly qualified guides. And, you know, for employers, people like Ian, putting someone in a job, to think that if you employ someone and you know they have this award and they've been examined and they do this, saves you a lot of work worrying about whether your guides are up to snuff or not in this particular region. Let's take a look at, and I show you this one because if you don't mention, I'll give you some clues here. If you don't mention thematic interpretation in your recognition of current competency application, then we're going to send it back, because you need to throw this stuff back at us, that you understand what we expect of you to be a PTGA guide. Even if you don't do it or you don't believe in it, you have to understand what the expectation is, and for that thing here. This one catches a lot of people out. We can always tell when someone hasn't actually read the syllabi or looked at what they're applying for, because they see in the application form, which I'll get to shortly, working with small boats and zodiacs. And in their narrative, they write, I've been driving small boats and zodiacs for 20 years. Sounds reasonable from the heading. Let's go and have a look at this. This has nothing to do with driving a zodiac at all. We made this here, we made this award because shipping companies wanted, and polar tourism companies on vessels wanted a competency award for people who were working at the transition zone on the ship to shore, or zodiac to shore, shore to zodiac. Because in this industry, one of the highest areas of legal shenanigans and the need to avoid mitigation and incidents, small incidents which cause lawsuits, are in this area. The embarrassment or the pain of someone not getting loaded in their zodiac and falling on the floor and hurting their back causes more grief for a lot of companies than any of the other big scary things that people might do. And so you will see in this, demonstrate knowledge and uses of all the shore kit and stranding barrel contents, understands ship-specific passenger small boat zodiac guidelines, personal preparedness, has suitable attire. That we're trying to promote professional guiding. And so everybody looks like Martin Enkel in their sail racing gear, understands the reasons and options for wearing waders, carries radio suitably attached, available for effective use, carries spare crucial clothing, demonstrates knowledge of expected weather and landing conditions. So I will hope that you will see, for any of you, that if you look through this list, you go, yep, I do that every time, and it takes me 30 seconds because I'm an experienced guide. And that's exactly right, which means that it's realistic information to have in a performance exam. Because I'm sure most of you do this stuff and it's a blink decision, because again, you are not minimally experienced or minimally competent. Hopefully you are vastly experienced and far more competent than this particular standard. But I need you to understand that this is what's going on out there in the testing world and what you are about to be measured against and gain. And so that you need to understand these things. And I'll show you why shortly. So that's what that looks like. The form that I'm going to send you and what we need to see on this will look like this. Ian, can you give me the thumbs up? You can see this well enough? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to send you a package of information. And in this is your portfolio of evidence or POE template. Look through, you need to decide what it is that you're going to apply for and what it is that you're not going to apply for. So, I take it that many of you aren't going to apply for leader dog sled journey. So rather than you putting all the stuff in, take out the things that you don't think that you are minimally competent to the PTGA standards for, and remove them. If you think, oh, I think I should probably get Sea Kayak Guide Polar endorsement, you need to read it, because in order to get this endorsement, you already need to have enough open ocean experience or some other external Sea Kayak Guide qualification to add this onto. This is not a Sea Kayak Guide qualification, it's a polar endorsement for experienced Sea Kayak guides. So again, if you're in doubt, read the scope of the PQs, and this is where most of the work is in this whole issue. So once you've done that, decide, okay, I'm going to I think I'm worthy for all of these things here. Then cross out the ones you don't want. Then you're going to go down here, give a brief overview of your polar guiding history. Oops, sorry. A brief overview of your polar guiding history. My name's, I've been guiding for 20 years. I've worked in the Arctic and the Antarctic. I've worked private vessels. I'm Matt Drennan. I've worked large vessels from back in 1950, sometime or other. All of that stuff, write that there. I'll show you some examples. Then down here, this is where people freak out about the time, and you don't need to, because I'm going to show you. That's why I wanted to do this, because this will save you loads of time going thinking, God damn, I need to go back to 1983 and figure out what I did. This is a benchmarking project. So once again, we will never be able to check what it is that you're doing, because we just don't have that administrative power. But this is a benchmarking project where basically you've joined the PTGA, you're going to achieve a PTGA guide standard and some qualifications. This sets the standard and establishes what it is that we've made that decision on. And basically we need to put you in a couple of categories. Whether you are a 0 to 150 day guide, whether you are 150 to a 300 days of experience guide, or whether you're above 300. So if you're above 300, we really don't care whether you're at 2,500, 1,800, 1,572. We're not going to check plus or minus 100 days if you have that much experience. So we understand that as a benchmarking exercise, this is an estimate. If we had to support Ian in court, then that's how we go about it, saying, well, look, it doesn't matter. A senior guide for the PTGA has to have a minimum of 300 days experience in the industry. Here's Ian's paper audit. Ian has 1,500 days experience. This is vastly more than what's required. So that's not the issue of why this event happened and why we're in court just deciding this. So we don't need to go back and look plus or minus 2 days. Just give it your best shot, and I'll show you what that looks like. Then we get down to this bit. This is where we need to see. So if you are Brent, you've done a load of these. So once again, you don't have to give us an exact number. It's okay to use the estimate sign, which is on my keyboard, top left on the numbers on the top, estimate. And it's okay if Brent has 1,500 days of experience in the industry and he has done at least 1,200 or more formal presentations, then just put estimate 1,200, because once again, don't think about it hard. This is a benchmarking exercise. Do
they still count as presentations if everyone's fallen asleep?
Yes, well, that's where you
just asking, not asking for me, but asking for other people on the call.
No, we'd hope not, but
great.
So these are so that's what that is. Now in this bit here, this is where you need to show us some understanding that you know what we expect. So this is where things come unraveled and why it gets sent back. So Brent may say, sorry Brent to use you, but let's just say that you didn't know what was written in the syllabus for PTGA. You go, I've done 1,200 presentations or more. So been presenting for 15 years. I talk about birds of the Southern Ocean, birds of this, birds of that, Antarctic treaty, something. That's what I do. I'm a good presenter. That doesn't work. What we need to understand, and key things, are some paraphrasing from our awards. So a more usable narrative for us would be something like, I have been delivering presentations formally and professionally for over 15 years. I understand the PTGA syllabus. I engage my audiences with interactive questioning. I have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I have been to Toastmasters. I have done a Toastmasters course, and I am often employed as my key role for many years was as a formal presenter. So what you've done in there is you've given us an overview of your experience. I've been doing this 15 years. You've told us that you have been employed in that particular role for that particular thing. But for us, importantly, You have thrown in some stuff from our syllabus. You have said, I've read and understand the syllabus and believe that I operate to a level beyond the PTGA syllabus or equal to. And that's what we need. That's the key information. So we don't need 6 pages of Brent trying to outline every presentation he's given. We need to know that Brent understands and that we have some assurance that Brent, if I go to one of Brent's presentations, I can see there's an introduction, a middle, an end, that Brent knows how to use the microphone and repeats questions from the audience because he knows that the people in the back didn't hear the question. All of those things that a SHIP formal presenter does right off the bat, but perhaps Magnus, not having presented in big lecture theatres perhaps on the world, might not do right away. So Magnus needs to do some work if you don't know those things. Brent might be a mega pro at this stuff because you've worked in the large presentation zone, perhaps probably a lot more. So that's what we need to see. And we need you to be honest. So for someone like Magnus, who may not be a large lecture theatre presenter, it's okay to say, I haven't worked as a formal presenter in large vessels. I present on my small sailing boat, but I believe that I follow formal presentation skill and have formal presentation skills. I like to have an introduction. I like to conclude my presentations on the small boat with 6 people, and I always use a whiteboard and some interactive questioning. That's good enough for us to take this as a paper audit, which shows that you've acknowledged that you might not be in this high-level formal zone, but that you've at least read the syllabus and you have said to us, I'm going to do my best to work to this level or beyond. Does that make sense? Anyone have any questions about that? Same with interpretation skills. In here, if you don't mention the fact that you have read and that you understand thematic, you've at least looked at thematic interpretation and understands what it is, then it's not gonna work for you to come back. Crevasse awareness and management is not crevasse rescue. If you read the scope, you will see that this just involves you working on shore with experienced people who know how to, who can tell you what to do. Again, this is minimum competence, largely built for ship-based polar guides. It's about knowing what a crevasse is, why it's risky, and if an expedition leader tells you to stick some flags here and manage the crevasse, you know how to help some people across this 50 centimeter wide crack in the snow and do that. So have a quick read of that. Communications gets people because people go, oh, I've been using VHF radios for 25 years. So that they write, been using VHF radios for 25 years. You will notice in our syllabus here, we need guides in our assessments to know the phonetic alphabet. So if I was assessing Martin right now, and I say, Martin, spell your name using the phonetic alphabet because you're under exam, then we expect that. Some of you may say, and this is a common comeback to us, I've been working on the Antarctic Peninsula for 20 years and I've never used the phonetic alphabet. It's actually better for your telephone conversations with the airline travel company, but we are not the Antarctic Peninsula Guides Association. We expect that if you have our communication skills and someone knows about that award, that you could get a job with the Australian Antarctic Division in deep field where it's mandatory that you use the phonetic alphabet. So we're not just about the lowest common denominator, which is Antarctic Peninsula cruise guiding. And you folks all fit into that. So you need to know. And if you don't know the phonetic alphabet, obviously you can just say, yes, I understand. But eggs is eggs. When I meet you for a wine sometime in a cafe, then I'll ask you about that. And the other thing you'll need to know here is, and all of you should have this no problem, is that this has 2 elements. One is VHF and UHF, and the second is satellite telephony. So if you just write, no, VHF, that's easy. We need a statement that you have used satellite telephones for however many years, and that you understand how to check for corrosion and change the battery and understand what a low Earth orbit satellite does. So I'm not going to run through all of these because it will take time, but you're getting the idea that there's hidden stuff in there that you need to show us, that at least a few bits of the thing that you understand and can paraphrase back to us what it is that's in the award, which is an indication that you have read it, because that's the key thing for us. We're okay with paper audits because hopefully we will never end up in a court, a lawsuit trial with Martin, trying to account for the fact that we call Martin a senior polar guide, and why is he here now because someone's been seriously injured or killed, and we have to account for that. And we're like, well, we gave him a Zodiac award because we thought that he was a good bloke and he's sponsored by Sail Racing, so why shouldn't he have our Zodiac award? So have a look at these things. If you're going to apply for them, just scan through the stuff, please, and show us that. So what it looks like in these narratives, and I'm getting there if you're thinking this is going on, we're nearly done here. So here's some narratives for you that that work for us. Can you see that okay, Ian? Yeah. Okay. So let me go down here. So you can see this is how someone's done. Right. So this person has applied, and I have permission to use these if you're wondering. So you can see this person just took out the things here that they didn't want, and that's what they're left with. There we go. So see, this person started quite a long time ago, and that's what they've done. That's all. That's what you need to write. It's not very much. If you want to write more because you're proud and keen, as you saw from Rob and Tim's email, it was kind of a journey down memory lane for them, then that's okay. But that person wrote that. Now, I'm not saying that this is perfect, but I'll show you some, I'll just show you how they've gone about it. So it gives you some, remember, if anyone has any questions, please roll up. So you can see these are estimates, and we're never going to go back to this. If you have, you know, I don't even expect you to chase around looking for your old contracts, because like I said at the start, this is a benchmarking exercise. And what this is telling us is that this person started it back in the 90s and has worked, in this case, right through, this is when this RCC period happened, they were working right through the day. So straight away, this is good accountability for us to carry on to the next phase, thinking, and awarding this person senior polar guide, because they've worked for loads of companies and they've got lots of time in the Antarctic and the Arctic. So they're up in the 1800s. Remember, 300 or more was our gateway for senior polar guide. So this is someone who, it doesn't mean that they're good, they could be a dickhead. So please understand that. We don't test for dickheadedness. We are minimum skills competency. So this person, you know, we can't guarantee them a job. If they turn up at Albatross looking for a job, they still need to be interviewed, even though they're a senior polar guide, because they may have a lot of good skills, but they may be a dickhead on a team. And so we don't test for that. So here's some stuff, and here you can see whether, you know, again, don't freak out about this. Just give it a crack because it's a benchmarking exercise. This person's obviously been hired as a presenter, degree in biology, tropic ecology, yada, 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 naturalist for here. What they haven't told us here, that I had explained before, is they haven't reflected anything from our syllabus. So I don't know what happened with this at the time. This just told us, and this is what happens, and this is why I wanted this meeting, this is what people do. They tell us what they do and what they've done. They don't tell us how it fits with the PTGA syllabus, and that is the crucial bit. We need you to link what you are already good at to the PTGA syllabus and tell us why you are equal to or better than our syllabus. This is more like it. The radio and comms one, using BH radios, 92. Understand the limitations, use and care of different types, fluent and phonetic aviation, communication in the field, understand geographic issues in the way, partial blocking terrain, understand the effects of heavy weather, use of satellite Iridium phones as emergency backup, using and testing comms from shore remote locations, coordination of medevacs with DAP in Antarctica as an EL, training and assessment of expedition team members on the use, care, and limitations of VHF and non-polar operations. So that's a narrative there that should take you just a few minutes to type out. It tells us your experience, but this ticks a lot of the expectation of minimum competency from our syllabus. So this is good. This one here, and you see again, it's pointless trying to think about it. Just give it a number. It's a benchmarking. It's a benchmarking thing. I brought out working with small boats and Zodiacs, 1,000 plus. Again, that fits with the idea that if you're a 1,300-day guide, then you've got to have 1,000 or so days where you've loaded and unloaded people into Zodiacs. But you can see again, it's a short paragraph, and this is good. Preparation of check shore kits for use, assisted guests and crew training, demonstration assistance for safe embarkation and disembarkation of guests and crew. If you're thinking, my job as an EYOS guide is always embarking and disembarking guests and crew. Remember what I've said, in the polar tourism industry, the biggest number of lawsuits that I can find against the large companies happen because of loading and unloading people in Zodiacs, because of medical misadventure, embarrassed people with a sore back. So this fits. If you look at our syllabus now, this fits with a lot of stuff in there, and we can go, good, this person has 1,000 days experience, they understand what our level of expectation is, we'll give that the nod, and on we go. So I'm not going to run any more there. Let's have a look at this one here very quickly. Once again, different way about it. 950-day guide. So once again, straight off the bat, we've looked through that first bit. We don't have to study it. We're not going to call up and say, hey, Martin, did you really do 951 or was it 947? We don't care. It's well above 300. You can look at it from the perspective of when we did these things originally. If someone had 302 days, then that's some question, because we know that if you're a ship guide, then a whole bunch of days are in port doing not very much. And 302 is a little bit iffy. 951, we don't care if there's 150 port days in there. You are still in the field for a long time. Interpretive skills, 80 plus interpretive excursions with guests and students. I've been trained in this method in Tilden's Principles of Interpretation and Interpretive Methods course in college. See transcript. I strive to make communication erot, enjoyable, relevant, organized, and thematic. Now called tour. So straight away, this tells us that this person understands what thematic interpretation is, which is our contemporary professional expectation of the ability to run a thematic interpretation session for for guests in this industry at work. Navigation, 1,100 days. As a lifelong boater, backpacker, hiker, wildlife biologist, use charts, maps, compass, GPS. I've trained university students, map reading, blah, 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 near, all the rest of it. That reflects enough of our syllabus to make a paper audit judgment that this person is minimally competent to our standard, and we give it the nod. And that's it. Any questions?
Quick question, Graham. Can you hear me? Obviously, this is for polar tourism, but that person alluded to experience outside the poles, and obviously for many of us, we've done just as many hours or days in Zodiacs on ships in non-polar. We draw on that in the written sort of part.
Yep, great question, Brent, and thank you for doing it. Saying that, I should have brought that up. Yes. So in that bit where it says just general days, Antarctica, Arctic, it's okay to just stretch that out. If you've had 1,500 days in the tropics where you're driving Zodiacs, that doesn't relate exactly to our polar polar endorsement and other polar driving stuff, but it's worthwhile metrics to throw in there because as you can understand, imagine if any of you, most of you are likely experienced enough to actually build a qualification system like the PTGA. If I said to Magnus, go away and draw me up a Zodiac competency for this industry that you have lots of experience in, I'm pretty sure it would be very close to what we have already. And so the same thing, going back to Brent, yes, in non-polar regions, a lot of the Zodiac driving you do utilizes most of the same skills. And when you look at it, we have our endorsements. Our Zodiac driving award is actually built to be used in both places. You'll notice in our Zodiac award, it says nothing about the need to do this in polar, which is why Jesse has it and probably got assessed for it in Copenhagen. Is that right, Jesse? Yeah. So our Zodiac driving award is useful. And Brent, and just for that, so you know what's happening at PTGA, we are now developing a non-polar strand of awards. We have cruise companies who want to use us for their non-polar work. And so we are building that as we speak. And so Brent, yes, that's coming into play as well. So play your cards right, you can be you can get all of the expedition guide stuff as well. But yes, please, if you've worked lots of non-polar, then again, if it's in presentations, then yes, we know that Brent's presentations were just as competent in the Philippines as they were in the Arctic. Thanks, Ian. And so, yes, Brent, you may have, that's where we account for that discrepancy. You may have, let's just say you had 15 days of polar experience for your application for Senior Polar Guide. But if we look in your presentations and you have 2,500 estimate, then we expect somewhere to see, well, that's weird. You've got 1,500 days of experience. How did you get 2,500? Then also there's a note there going, I have, over 15 years of experience in non-polar regions as a presenter and a guide in those regions. So throw that stuff in. If any of you are outdoor educators or mountain guides, you're a mag, you're a sailor, all of that stuff counts. So Magnus, your navigation days are far more possibly than your guiding days, because you've been navigating every day that you sail your sailboat around the world as a dutifully unemployed dole bludging, bludger on the system. And so, so by all means, put that stuff in there as well, and that helps. Does that answer that, Brent? Yep.
Thank you.
And again, if you have external qualifications already, lead off in your narratives with that. So if you have Toastmasters, or Magnus has probably for your yachting stuff, if you already have ocean going Seamasters Navigation Award, then lead off with that, because that covers off most of what you need to do and is proof that you are beyond minimally competent already. So that's a help. RYA2, sure, throw it in there. It's some assistance, but for us, it's really not worth jack. But throw it in there because it shows that at some stage you had to go to a course to learn how to drive a Zodiac. But if you have higher level awards, this is off, if you're an IFMJ mountain guide, or you have your British Mountain Leader Award, all of those things are automatically above the PTGA level of skill level required for our awards, and that's just a free pass right away. We recognize any system that has been performance tested. That's the key bit. If you've gone on a radio course, that's not a performance test. If you're being performance tested or need to be checked and that sort of stuff, then do that. You'll notice that we offer a firearms skills for polar bear environments. We have our own firearms syllabus in there, which you'll get when I send you this package of information. Once again, you've all probably done courses. What we're looking for there is a statement of competency. To have the PTGA award, you need to hit, I can't remember the diameter, you need to hit a certain size target 3 times inside of some minutes. So we have a performance requirement. It's not just about going to pole position and watching someone tell you how to load or half load a weapon anymore. We need to know you can actually do the job and hit the target inside of a thing. So if you're applying for that award, you need to tell us how we know that you can hit a target of that size inside of 60 seconds. Any other questions? No? Now, I'm going to send you a package, a zipped file of information, and you can get going on this. Like I said, I think now, given what I've done the briefing, you know, for most of you with vast CVs and time in the industry, you're just going to go for estimates. Like if Matt goes, well, I first started in this industry in 1980 something or other, then and you're like, well, I think I did, well, let's just put 60 days back then. That's okay. Like I said, it's about benchmarking, so we can tell whether you're a above 300 guide, above 2,000 day guide. Then it just get through that stuff quickly, but show us some reason there. The main work is in going, yeah, I think I'm going to apply. I think I should get the firearm skills for polar bear environments. You should read through it, because what we represent will likely have some additional stuff that you don't just get by turning up a pole position or having a NRA firearms license from the US. So you need to know what we expect. Now, and as you launch forward in this, a lot of you will go, yeah, all good, I'm fine with this, that's okay. If you are a more cautious person and you want to go, oh, okay, yep, I can launch this, I'm going to try my narrative for driving a Zodiac, and you want to send it to me and go, hey, Graham, is this on track? Is this what this should look like for this? Then I'm more than happy. It's way easier for me to spend 30 seconds with Ian's first attempt at one of these, just for driving a Zodiac and his narrative, 1,500 days, and then here's the narrative. It's way easier for me to look at that and go, yep, that's on track. That's what we need for anything you're going to apply for. Then that saves us time than going through a whole portfolio of evidence application, then going, it's not up to speed, when we send it back with our feedback, because this gets reviewed by 2 people. So 2 people have to look at it, and then they agree, and then they'll either go, no, we can't judge, we can't call on that, we're going to send it back and ask for more information. And none of you nor us want to get into that, because that's where the time suck is. And, Mag, I know you're heading off, disappearing out of the way and all the rest of it. And we don't want that. So once again, if you start into this carefully and get it done right the first time, then once you've done it, you'll be thinking it's a pain in the ass, yes. There's no doubt. But then it'll come to us and it'll just fly through. And the next thing you've got some stuff. And then if you want to forget about the whole exercise for the rest of your life, that's up to you. But what you don't want is to think you've got it all sorted out and then find out it's not and have to do it again. And I can only apologize. Once again, right back to the very start of this,
Graham, I have a question. First of all, I hope that you really send back Ian's Zodiac driving skills info. But is this protecting guides, or is it protecting the companies we work for?
Good question. I believe it has value for both. Obviously in this particular case, the call for action came from Tim and Rob, so there appears to be some company motivation, because you guys have all known about this for years. and haven't, you know that there's been this easy paper audit which you haven't, acted upon. So, you weren't bothered with it as an individual. I believe the tricky thing, Martin, is that because this is international, like in New Zealand, if you were just working as a Franz Josef Glacier guide and you had an incident or a guest was unhappy and called out something, then we can definitely protect, because we know what the New Zealand laws and the guiding skills requirements are in New Zealand. The problem with it being international, let's say that you're working with a South African guest, and they get poorly loaded into a Zodiac, they fall and hurt their tailbone, and they decide to sue EYOS or you. The problem is, whose jurisdiction is this in, and who cares, because how are they going to go about that? The other thing is, obviously, if someone, even in the bigger cruise expedition world, if you're a Silver Sea guide and you hurt someone or are called into some legal issue, then chasing the guide is pretty pointless, because guides have the least amount of money. That you're far better to go for the company. If you're fallen and you want a lawsuit because you now have a slip disc in your back from your bumpy Zodiac ride, then it's pointless chasing the guide. You'll chase the company, because they're going to have the millions to pay out. So for most of what we're seeing from our perspective at PTGA is that companies are using us because the companies are looking for protection, not the guides. The guides are doing it because they're proud to be measured, and largely they want to have a career, and they want to be called a professional. And to be a professional is to be measured by a standards body which belongs to that industry. And as you know, we are the only ones. You can have your RYA award, but it has nothing to do with the situational risks that occur and kill people in the polar regions. You look at all the incidents that have happened over the last 10 years, they're not just from being in a Zodiac, they're from specific polar environmental conditions, and RYA can't teach you about those things. And so that's no good for anything.
So what's your minimum? So 300 days in the field is, then you're a senior guide according to you. I'm just asking, I'm not being negative, I'm just asking.
No, totally, because I didn't tell you. So when you look at this, there's a second part to that. So in terms of days experience, the minimum gateway, oh, hi, sweetie. Sorry, daughter has woken up. The minimum gateway is for senior guide is 300 days. Then there's a number of hour qualifications. So we have 9 what we call foundation qualifications, and you'll see that in our qualifications framework. And in order to be a senior polar guide, you need to have at least 7 of those foundation qualifications. We prefer that you have all of them, and then you need to have 4 or more advanced endorsements or advanced qualifications. So 300 plus the range, the foundation qualifications. That's things like, because navigation skills, communication skills, a lot of those are prerequisites. So you can't actually get our Zodiac Driving Award without having navigation skills. So if you think, oh, I haven't done navigation enough to be at this level, then you technically can't get our Zodiac Award. It's a prerequisite. And so, sweetie, can you just, I'll be with you in a minute. So you need those foundation awards. Now, if you're thinking, well, why the 7 or 9? We used to make it all of the foundation awards, but the problem is there's people out there, as you know, in the larger cruise vessel land, where they're largely in the presenter topic expert land, and they do less of the argy-bargy young person hiking, driving Zodiacs in gnarly conditions and all the rest of it. And so they said, well, how can I be a senior polar guide? I never get to drive Zodiacs. in strong winds and all of that kind of stuff, so I can't get these advanced endorsements. So we switch things around. And the same, there's plenty of young folk who are there as, you know, just hired meat to drive Zodiacs, but they never get to formally present. And so they're like, well, how can I be a senior polar guide? Sea kayak guides are classics. They do lots of good stuff, but they very seldom get to formally present. And so we allow people to drop off a couple of our foundation PQs. So 300 days. I would hope in this esteemed group that you should have all of our foundation qualifications, and then you start selecting the advanced endorsements and advanced awards. And there's a lot to choose from these days, because since the last open public recognition of current competency scheme, we've added our Polar Bear Award and our Firearms Award in there. So that makes it really easy to get that lot, especially, most of you that I know of work in the Arctic and you have all that stuff.
I think you should change the Polar Guide aspirant to Polar Guide hired meat. I think that would be pretty cool. People would sign up in droves. It's on Brent's lower back anyway. Right.
So I've prattled enough, gang. I appreciate your time. I'm certainly happy to answer any more questions. I'll prepare a zipped folder for you with the documents and send that stuff through. I'll also include a zipped file of all of our syllabi. I'm sure you all know that you can get those syllabi from our website. That's why we're an industry standards association, because our stuff is not hidden. We don't have it's there for anyone to see what the level required for communication skills or thematic interpretation is. But I will make it easy for you and send you a zip file of all of the qualifications that are in there. Any other questions before we wrap it up? Nope. I can, as a last parting thing, I just encourage you, if you've got any questions, flick me an email. It's way easier. And if you want to avoid Ian's taking the piss or anything else like that, then you don't have to reply all. Just send it to me direct. And if anyone wants to pay to not have Brent get presentation skills or something, then of course we'll take any donations. But if you've got any questions, far easier to flick me an email and clarify than it is for us to review the whole thing with two people and then send it back.
Hey, Graham. Quick question on timeline.
Yeah.
Do you have a timeline when you need to receive this information from everybody?
Yeah, we say 3 months.
Great.
Just because we do, if let's say this group here, let's say that 6 of you decide to do it, and 5 of you have it in 3 months, and 1 person's left because they're out working, that's no problem. What we don't want to do is find that people are dragging their heels, and then come Christmas time and Antarctic time, 6 months down the track, the administrative burden falls on us then, chasing you all around the place because Rob's going, hey, how's this going? It's like, man, it's a shit show trying to tie down EYOS guides. They're like herding cats, which we know, and doing that. So we put that on there just to give you some focus. So if you're super busy and you have a good reason, then we can deal with that. But if you're going to do this, let's just get it done. A rainy afternoon, bottle of wine, you'll crack it out. Okay, thanks team. If there's no other questions, great to meet those of you who I haven't met before. For those of you I met before, good to see you again, and have a safe Arctic season for those of you who are heading to the Arctic.
Thanks, Graham.
Thank you, Graham.
Thanks,
everybody. Bye.